Good morning, fans of the new network. It is James Ernest here on Sarah's playlist with Waiting in the Willows. We have Sebastian Alexander. He is the vocalist. We have Levi Smith. He was the bass. And Levi has a party going on in his place with balloons. That's cool. I need to know
Yeah,
how to do that. That was a neat feature. But guys, we're excited about having you all on the show.
excited
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
having
Thanks for
us.
having us.
So, Sebastian, we're going to start with you. How did your Midwest upbringing inspire your passion for music?
I think a lot of that actually had to do with the diversity of music that was coming through. So I grew up in a part of Kansas that was very much so a melting pot. So um, it was more difficult to not find a genre of music than it was to find a genre of music out there. But my parents, they grew up with a lot of the original goth industrial and original punk bands. So, when pop punk started hitting the scene, they started listening to it. I picked up on it, and then there's just large swaths of like-minded individuals out in Kansas that I got to, spend a lot of time with, and that really shaped my musical tastes, between my friends and my family.
Nice. So it sounds like music out there is a family tradition.
Yeah, basically.
That's pretty cool.
I've got family members who are in bands like out in Illinois and stuff like that. So,
So, how did you, or how did Seattle, the Seattle band Facebook group, help create Waiting in the Willows?
oh, so I moved to Seattle from Hawaii, and I always wanted to be in a band, and I wasn't sure how to do it, so I joined a Seattle musician group, and I said, "Hey, I'm starting a band. I need guitarists, I need a bassist, and I need a drummer." And the first two people to like the status, I reached out to, and I was like, "Hey, so you're in the band, right?" And they were like, "Oh, I guess so." And we met up like 2 weeks later, and a nameless enigma was formed. And then so began the fight to find a drummer and a bassist, which, as everybody knows, is incredibly difficult. We found our original drummer at a an emo night, and then we found Levi also on Facebook because we were just kind of relentlessly posting, looking for people to come audition as a bassist. Because I was originally trying to play bass and sing at the same time, but learned quickly that is not a skill I possess.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming to have to do all that. So I know what you mean. So Levi, where did the name come from? Waiting in the Willows.
That's a good question. That was actually before my time. The band came up with that. But and Logan, correct me if I butcher this story. I think like their first meeting, they were like, "Oh, like we'll brainstorm and think on a band name." And then Logan's wife really loves like literature and really appreciates the short story collection Winds in the Willows. And I think they were just kind of joking around, brainstorming, and they were like, "Oh, what about Waiting in the Willows?" And the first night they were like, "Oh, like yeah, like that's the name." Um, so correct me if I'm like, it's more or less the story, right, Logan or Sebastian?
Yeah, yeah, that's basically it.
Awesome. So I wasn't far off when I kept doing when I was doing my research because that kept popping up that short story, and I was like, well, wait a second, I typed it in wrong because it had a slightly different title, but yeah, Google kept telling me that, and I'm like, why does Google keep telling me this? And then there was another band that had that exact name, and so I thought I was going down the wrong rabbit hole. So Google was more right than I was.
Oh, there's a band named The Winds and the Willows too.
Yeah.
The bold move, Cotton. Bold move.
Yeah.
So yeah, shoot, they had like their name was exactly the same as the short story. So, but yeah, fortunately, shoot, got to find out more about you guys, so that made it all worth it. So, was the connection between the three of you or the five of you instant?
Uh No. So maybe me and the guitarist, like we all clicked pretty quick, but we had kind of formed like a really solid base. So we were skeptical mostly about Levi and Silas at the time because what we had heard, because none of us are from the Seattle area, was that the bassists and the drummers in Seattle were kind of flaky. But we were trying to make that decision ourselves, but being cautiously optimistic. And we did have one drummer originally, and he showed up to like one practice and then just disappeared. And then we had a bassist, and he never even showed up to practice. And then he was like, "Hey, I'm not coming. I'm joining another band." So we immediately had that like, oh, all right, so it's kind of true taste in our mouths. Um, and then through no, control of his own, our second drummer, he had to be gone a lot in the beginning too. So we kind of just rolled with that. We tried out a couple more bassists before Levi, and they too also just kind of disappeared into the wind. So when Levi finally came around, we were like, I don't know, man. Is he just gonna up and disappear too? But he stuck around. So we probably gave him a little bit more uh distrust than he deserved in the beginning.
Nice. So it ended up working out in the end, it sounds
It did, yes.
like. Awesome. And
Uh,
was Jonah the one that you met at emo night?
No, Jonah, we met through the previous drummer of Lemon Boy out in Seattle. We were just looking for another drummer because Silas wasn't available a lot. So we needed someone to be around if we needed to record or if a show came up and Silas was unavailable. So for a while we had two drummers, Jonah and Silas, but unfortunately Silas he ended up too busy, so we couldn't make it work out. But he's in another great band called PR for Monsters. You should check them out sometime.
So it sounds like Jonah kind of was a hero several times and came to the aid of the band even prior
Oh,
to becoming a
absolutely.
member. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So Levi, why are you the hype man?
why am I the hype man? Um, they joke that like I have this thing called toxic positivity. I like to just call that general like appreciation for life. Um, but I love music and art and the connection it brings to people. Like I think it's beautiful that as soon as like humanity created language, one of the first things we did was create stories. And we find a lot of catharsis through that. So to like write a song and just to get a single like head nod in the crowd, to like see someone like smile whenever we're on stage, that really amps me up. And I think it's a really beautiful thing that live art can do. So when I'm on stage with the guys, I just want to give it my all because, as cheesy as it might sound, tomorrow's never a guarantee. Life is just nothing but fleeting moments. So when I have a chance to connect with someone and like share that energy amongst the crowd, I want to give it my all and make it a moment we can all appreciate and remember down the road. Um, so when I'm on stage, like I'm dancing around, I'm like jumping up and down. Our lead guitarist made a joke one time. He's like, I got like an earthquake right next to me. He can't stop moving. Um, if when I figure it out, I'll eventually do backflips with my bass.
Oh
I
wow,
want to bring the show.
that is phenomenal. I mean, that's the thing people need more of is positivity. It's kind of funny. Shoot, I'm kind of that way with me and the wife. I'm the half full, she's the half empty glass, and she's always, upset about something, and I'm always trying to find the positive in it. And it's great that you have somebody in your band like you that is always finding the positive and is all about inspiring and entertaining the fans. I mean, because you're right, there's nothing better than the connection that you can have with your fans at an event like that and just change the way they look at the rest of their day, week, month, year. And that is just so phenomenal.
Hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I want to give Flea a run for his money. Like whenever we get to tour with Red Hot Chili Peppers, like I want to give like I want to have like a bass off with Flea. Like it's gonna happen.
Wow, that would be cool. So, what bands inspire you?
Um, so I grew up a huge Elton John fan. Like I love the way he composes like melodies, and I love Bernie Taupin's like lyricism, and like that's all I would listen to growing up. And then one of my high school friends was like, "Have you heard of this band called Fall Out Boy? They did a song with Elton John," and that was my introduction into pop punk. So I love everyone from like Elton John and like the Foo Fighters and Tom Petty, all the way up to like Fall Out Boy and Green Day and Panic! The Disco. Um, I'm not gonna lie, Logan turned me into a Coheed and Cambria fan. I was a little resistant at first, but I'm like, man, it's like prog emo stuff is like really like on it. Um,
The lyrics hurt Levi's feelings, though.
they do. They like Claudio Sanchez writes very beautiful love songs, and I really love that about like his storytelling. Outside of that, I'm still like trying to accept some of his lyrics. But I would say like those are kind of like my big influences when it comes to like my approach to music.
So, Sebastian, what is your plan to achieve greatness and share your music with the world?
Honestly, it's easier said than done. I mean, everyone knows that, I'm sure, but I wanna build ourselves up by building up the people around us. I have a few efforts that are kind of sidelined right now because I'm going to school for music theory so I can contribute better to the band. Um, but one of the things I like to do is when we play a show with other bands is I like to interview the other bands and ask them questions, not just questions about music, but like really humanizing and personal questions too. And I have a nice backlog of interviews with local bands and touring bands, and eventually, again on Mondays on our website, I'll start posting those interviews. And so that that forum is supposed to serve as a well of information for new musicians, starting out musicians, experienced musicians who may not know, like, well, what things should I expect when I'm touring? How do I book my first show? What's an EPK? Things like that. So I'm hoping that the success we achieve isn't going to be, ill-gotten. I would like for our relationships to build us up, and I would like to elevate the people around us at the same time.
Excellent. So, it sounds like you're definitely all about paying it forward.
Yeah, and I've always thought there's a distinct difference between success and fame, and I don't necessarily hope that we'll be famous one day. Despite one of our songs having the hook of famous or dead. Uh, you know, uh, you can be a billboard success without being the person on the front page, and that would be amazing to me.
I can imagine both of you extremely excited about February 16th. Tell us about that big event and who's going to be performing there.
Oh, geez. So February 16th kind of turned into a kerfuffle. Originally it was going to be five bands. Some unforeseen circumstances arose, and the show got canceled and recreated all in the same night.
Oh,
So, um, the company that had set up the show was no longer able to host the event, so the venue had to cancel. We were supposed to be playing with a couple tribute bands, one to Blink 182 called Feeling This, and one to Green Day called 21 Guns.
oh,
So yeah, we're still playing with them. Luckily, we all reached out to the venue at the same time, and we're like, "Hey, we still want to play this show." We kind of told a whole bunch of people to be there, and my father's flying out from Kansas for this show too. So I reached out to them. I was like, "Hey guys, I will I will find four more bands. We need to play this show. And they were like, no, don't worry about it. And they bumped us up from opening to playing third. So in the end, it was kind of a nice buffer for us. And we still get to play the show, but yeah, it's gonna be great. I know I'm glad I'm going before those guys because I'm gonna be singing along to probably every single song that they tribute.
Oh, that sounds like a great evening. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's at a great venue in Tacoma because it at Real Art Tacoma they really push the all ages side of things so that youth can appreciate live music, and there's not enough of that out here in Seattle. Live music is very gate kept from young people out here unless they go to like major shows at like the Tacoma Dome or you know arenas. But a lot of their favorite local bands they can't go see because they're 21 plus, like
Exactly.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Same here in Cincinnati. There's a lot of venues that, yeah, don't allow the youth in. Um, so both of you guys contribute to the band's creative process. Could you tell us a little bit about creating WITW?
Oh, Demi would it?
That first album.
First, our EP.
EP,
Oh,
yeah,
the
yeah.
EP. Sorry, we have a shorthand for all of our songs, and one of them is it sounded like you're referring to that one. Yeah. Levi, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think like it's like we just finished our first full year as like a band, and there's like a lot of like learning like we're still learning each other, like our own individual approaches, like the creative process and like how we like to write songs. Like Sebastian and I like write the lyrics, and like learning from each other, like how to rewrite the song lyrically, how do we think of like the bass lines and the melody. So when it came to writing like our first EP, it felt like this fever dream of like all of us like, oh, we finally get to like produce the songs we wanted to produce for a while. So like the song Sebastian was mentioning, like Dimmy with it, which is shorthand for the title of Don't Expect Much and Only Gets Worse From Here, is a song he's had in his back pocket for like ever. And then a song on that EP is On the Corner of Canaan Street and Central Avenue, is a very personal song like I wrote that I've had in my back pocket forever. And then Friction in Your Jeans is like the first full like song is like a band we built from scratch with each other. And that was a really special moment. And Catalina was in that similar vein where it was like, um, how can we like write music together? So a lot of times like we learned like it helps starting with like a really simple like riff, whether it's like a steady guitar riff or like a bass line, and building around that. And we find that it helps to form the words around the music we're writing. Um, and yeah, I just think that's kind of the best way to describe that EP was it was just that excitement of we get to be a band and let's put all the songs we wanted to put on and just see what happens.
I've heard that from other bands where, like you said, you had the pre-existing songs. And that's why sometimes it feels like the first album is the best album because you've had so much time with that one. Where the second, third, fourth album, and this has been with other bands, they're still great, but they just don't have as much time to work on them as God knows you might have been working on that first one your entire life.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I think there's something to that because like we're all like really really busy. And one thing I will say that's been really fun this past year is like we went from like walking into this band with like maybe like one or two songs in our back pocket to what we have like 15 or stuff, like 15 plus in our back catalog we're trying to like work on. Is that about right, Sebastian?
yeah, I guess with the two, it's between 15 and 17 songs right now that are almost complete.
Yeah, so it's like as busy as we are, I think what's really exciting about like us is like, oh, like hey, I have this riff idea and we upload it into like our drive, so it's always like there and we're always sharing ideas with each other. So we're trying to make the effort still in like our personal time to like always come up with new ideas and make sure it's being shared with the band, because you never know what's going to turn into. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that first EP has kind of set the template for your music?
No.
I mean, I think it's a good
So
starting point, right? Because like we
yeah,
know what we like. Yeah.
it was a launch pad. So one of the things we really were struggling with was since none of us are local to the area,
Mhm.
none of our friends were like here. So, it was a matter of how do we get people listening to our music? They all want to listen on Spotify, so we better publish some stuff. So we wrote these songs, and our general idea we had in mind was, we're gonna make a pop punk album. And it's gonna be awesome. And then we kind of just started writing whatever we wanted to like get it out of our system. So um like yes to everything that Levi said, but I mean like just a couple like key points like Catalina. That was the we got to finish this EP song, right? Our rhythm guitarist was like, hey guys, I basically wrote a song last night, and we were like, cool, let's bring it into the studio and we'll add it. And so we basically wrote that song, rehearsed it once before we recorded it together, and then recorded it. And so while I think that EP was received well, I think it's a far cry from like where we're aiming to be as a band, because a lot of the stuff we've written since then, I think is just um you can tell there's a lot more time and craft put into it, because that first EP was really it was a rush to make sure that our friends and family in other states could hear what we were trying to do. And then somewhere along the way we just had a lot of fun and started putting out these singles, and none of them really matched the flow. So we got snagged as a partycore band, which is kind of fun. We'll embrace that. But I would expect, an album upcoming with, more similar tones to it throughout the entire album, instead of, like a really heavy alternative, sort of new metal vibe here, and then like very pop punk, and then kind of, you know, crusty metal, and then like a nice soft love song. Like it should have a much better flow when we release the whole album.
So was that the case for Dirty Diatribe?
Uh, yeah. So I was talking to my dad on the phone one time, and I was like, "Man, Dad, I've got really bad writer's block." And he said, "Oh, you remember that girl who broke your heart when you were in the military?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "You should write a song about how she sucks." And I was like, "Ah, great idea, Dad." Uh, and so, I kept it as anonymous as possible while also like trying to put my feelings into that, because I actually got that breakup was so bad for me that I got like diagnosed with near heart issues. It was crazy. I didn't even know that was possible. But the metaphysical is really really strong.
Wow. So it
Um,
wasn't just an expression that she broke your heart. She literally, wow.
yeah, so they diagnosed me with heartbreak syndrome, and it's real. It's a real thing. Um, so I wrote the song, but every time I came back to the chorus, the da 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 da, like that part right there is like, man, this is like I can feel the bounce in it. Like there needs to be a da 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 behind it. It needs to. I was like, it's gonna be very bowling for soup. So I was like, hey, Alex, can you write a rhythm guitar part that's kind of indicative of a bowling for soup song? And then I was kind of worried for a while, because once we had the song put together, I was a little bit worried that it sounded too much like Almost by Bowling for Soup. Like, I almost had you. But once it all came together, we were like, okay, cool. It's it's not a carbon copy or anything like that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like it's similar, it's inspired, but it's not, yeah, exactly the yeah, their format. So yeah, funny story about them. Shoot, I was at one of their shows, and I don't know if they do this at all their shows or a lot of their shows, but they were about to do their main song, the 1985 song, and they brought out the guy from Rookie of the Year, the guy from American Pie, and he sung a version like 1995 or something, whatever it was. So it was very similar to their song, but it was slightly modified, and it was just crazy that that he was just hanging out in the back, and all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna have the Rookie of the Year guy start singing with us."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen them twice, and they're always one of my favorite performances. They were the first band I ever saw that would actually, I think to this day, they're the only band that I've ever seen that will stop mid-song to like argue with each other and like talk to the audience and then just pick up right where they left off. And I have a far off dream of like working that into our sets to like pay homage to them because it was such an influential take on live music performance for me. Uh is just it adds the aspect of comedy
Yeah.
to a show, and that just it brings up the energy even if people don't know your music. If you're playing in the middle of a really famous on the radio song and you're like, hey, wait, stop, can you stop playing the wrong notes, and they're like, hey everyone, can you hear that? They just like bring everyone in, like, no, you don't have a choice now, you're gonna interact, and you're gonna make this experience better for everyone involved.
Oh yeah, their live show was so much fun. Actually, shoot, that was one of the more fun shows I've been to. Was it was them and it was Aquabats, which Aquabats are just crazy awesome.
I haven't had the opportunity to see Aquabats, but I would love to.
They are if the Wiggles, the Power Rangers kind of combined. They are, yeah, they they have their own little TV show that feels like a live animated or live action cartoon. They are very unique, but they fight villains like the same way a Power Ranger would. They are just that, yeah, they're something different.
That sounds amazing. Do they
Yeah,
do a cover of Fruit Salad? Like, because that would be like amazing.
that would be so cool. I agree with you. Now they do one about pizza, and they have these blow up pizzas that they throw into the crowd, and people surf on them. Then they have this other one where they have a song about beating up a shark, and so they show the floats, the full size floats of sharks, throw them out in the crowd. They're very interactive. It's was that one I it was one of those things you either love or hate. Like I loved it, and now I want to take my son to their concert next time they're in the area. Where my wife, on the other hand, hated it and will complain about it anytime someone will listen to her. So it is a little bit, it's different.
Yeah, I don't
But
know. I'm taking notes.
oh yeah, they were a lot of fun. But yeah, guys, it has been a pleasure having you on the show today. Anytime you all have a new album to promote or anything like that, we'd love to have you back on. Before we let you go, where on social media, where on the web, where can we find out more about Waiting in the Willows?
Waiting in the Willows is on all of your favorite platforms. We even have the shell of an account on MySpace. Uh, but really, we operate mostly off of Facebook and Instagram if anyone wants to talk. And then our music is on every streaming platform you could think of. If you want to keep up with us in like real time, our website's like 90% done, but really all that's missing is the merch tab. That's where we post all of our interviews and our show updates. And that's just waitinginthewillows.com.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for joining us.
Hey,
Thank you for